Open the pod bay doors.
Greetings and welcome to another exciting episode of the Cinematic Traveler Podcast. I am your intrepid movie-exploring host, Chris, and it's the middle of the week, so it must be time for a streaming surprise review. And for this week, I am reviewing a Netflix original film entitled Back in Action, directed by Seth Gordon and starring Cameron Diaz and Jamie Foxx. And as we all know with Netflix, they're generally just throwing their movies up against the wall to see what sticks. So will Back in Action actually stay on the wall, or will it end up in the trash bin with the rest of the Netflix original films? Well, we will get to that shortly, but before we do, I have to ask a favor of you. Whatever you're listening to this podcast on, there is a follow or subscribe button somewhere on that screen. If you could please tap that, I would greatly appreciate it. It does help me and the show, but it also helps you because you won't miss any future episodes, and you will be able to go back and listen to previous episodes and hear my amazing reviews in my sexy, sexy voice. Also, if you could leave a rating and a review, I'd appreciate that as well. And share the show with your family, friends, enemies, I don't care, on social media. That would be wonderful. Speaking of social media, you can follow me on Instagram at Cinematic Traveler Pod. I'm also on X or Twitter. That one is at CMT Pod. I'm on Blue Sky. That one is at Cinematic Traveler Pod something. And I have an email address, thecinematictravelerpod@gmail.com. So you have plenty of ways to follow the show, get in touch with me, and be a part of the Cinematic Traveler Podcast crew. I hope that you are doing well, my beloved listener. I know the beginning of the week here in the United States has been, it's been something, I tell you. For the rest of the world, might I recommend taking a vacation somewhere else than the United States of America right now? The things I see on TV and social media over what has happened the last couple of days just makes me shake my head. I don't really like to get political, so I'm not going to, but we did have our presidential inauguration and all the fun that came along with that. Oh boy. It's going to be a wild ride, everybody, so strap in. So hopefully you're doing well. And while everything does seem crazy, at least for the next 20 some odd minutes, I will give you a break from all of that. And you can escape it and just listen to my review for Back in Action. Now, before I dive in, I do have to over-explain a few things. First of all, I am going to give you a spoiler-free review and a spoiler-free synopsis. And in that synopsis, I have hidden two movie quotes that are from other movies that are sort of adjacent or share some DNA with this film. If you can identify what movies those quotes are from, you get a point for each one that you get right. I keep a tally, and at the end of the month, whoever has the most points wins and gets to choose a movie for me to review next month. So for all of you avid listeners, we have a pretty tight race going on, and we're here in the middle of the month. So if you've missed a few earlier episodes, you might want to catch up. And if you just listen from time to time, first of all, shame on you. And second of all, you can just play along and have fun and let me know you're listening. I know it seems a little uncool, but this is the best time of the week, and that is to be uncool with Chris. Okay, with Back in Action, once again directed by Seth Gordon. Well, I've seen a couple of things that he's directed. He's done a lot of TV work, but he also did that Baywatch movie with The Rock a few years ago, as well as Identity Thief with Jason Bateman and Melissa McCarthy, and Horrible Bosses. I think that also had Jason Bateman in it as well. And Jamie Foxx. So he kind of has a recurring group of actors he likes to work with. But at any rate, so he's done a few things I've seen. And I will say, I think my final verdict for this film could probably be applied to all of the other movies I've seen of his. But anyway, we'll get to that at the end. Now, moving into the film, we open the movie with two spies, Emily, played by Cameron Diaz, and Matt, played by Jamie Foxx. And they are on a secret mission to find this movie's MacGuffin. Some sort of, I don't know, movie device that does some bullshit that all the bad guys want. But anyway, Emily also has a secret on this mission. She is preggers, and Matt is the dad. So they decide that this is their last mission. And through a bit of fate and a plane crash that they have survived, they decide to disappear into a life in suburbia. So now we flash forward 15 years, and they are living the American dream with their teen daughter Alice, played by McKenna Roberts, and their younger son, I don't know, he's probably 10, 11, I don't know, Leo, played by Rylan Jackson. And things are going about as well as you think a family with a teen daughter would be going. That is until they catch Alice in a bar that she's not supposed to be in. And there are some assholes in this bar that decide they want to stir up some trouble, which causes Matt and Emily to utter something like, "Manners maketh man." Do you know what that means? Then let me teach you a lesson. Hint, hint. And they quickly dispatch these hooligans. But with that many cell phones around, you know this fight is going to make its way onto social media. And when it does, this exposes our retired badasses to their old enemies, who are quick to track down our heroes and try to find the MacGuffin that was introduced at the beginning of the movie that does something that they all want that I don't know because I can't really remember what it did. It'll come to me. At any rate, with kids in tow, Emily and Matt travel to jolly old London to get help from Emily's estranged mother, Ginny, played by Glenn Close, while also dodging an MI6 agent, Baron, played by Andrew Scott, who has a bit of a crush on Emily from the past, and he is trying to catch these two as well as the villains they're chasing after them. After the kids are, well, kidnapped by the bad guys, Emily and Matt realize spy work, that's easy. Keeping a family together, that's difficult. And that's the mission worth fighting for. Hint, hint. And fight for them they do. But will our heroes find the MacGuffin and save their kids in time? Or will the villains dispatch with this married couple of mystery and intrigue and their spy kids and take over the world? Well, I will not reveal the answer to those questions and spoil this movie for you, but I will give you the best review for Back in Action in all the podcast universe, nay, in all of the universe. Now, if this is your first time listening to the show, or if you haven't listened in a while, I do break my reviews down into 3 segments: the good, the bad, and the nitpicky. The good are things I like in the movie. The bad, obviously things that I don't. And the nitpicky, these are things that are neither good nor bad, just things they put in these movies, Hollywoodisms, or just silly things my weird little brain picks up on as I'm watching the movie that make me laugh. And as I am trying to do with this podcast, I would like to make you laugh, because if there's one thing I like to do in this world, that is to make people laugh. And hopefully I am succeeding with the show, although I don't know. I have my doubts right now. You can always let me know, leave a review. That way I know someone's out there. It's kind of lonely in here right now in my room behind my fort of blankets. At any rate, let's move into the good of the movie. And I will say Seth Gordon, he definitely has made an action-packed and well-paced movie. You never get bored in this film. I think it's a little less than 2 hours, and it moves right along. It opens with a pretty good fight between the bad guys and Emily and Matt on this airplane, and it goes out of control, and they're flipping all over the place. And it's very kinetic and high energy. I mean, this movie's got, for action movie, it's got a ton of it. You've got 2 car chases, you got a motorcycle chase, a boat chase, you got fist fights and hand-to-hand combat all over the place. It seems like every 5 to 10 minutes you're having another action scene after sort of a little bit of a setup when they do the 15-year jump. You got to pick up with the family and their environment and all that stuff. But once it basically hits, then it's nonstop all the way to the end. I'll get into some issues I have with it, but for the most part, like I said, it's pretty kinetic, well-paced. You're not going to get bored. There's some good scenes. Like I said, the car chase scene was pretty fun. I think there's actually a practical part of a car chase scene where they actually flip one, I don't know how many times. If it's not practical, it looks amazing. And yes, there's plenty of shootouts and flamethrowers and all kind of crazy shit you would expect from this type of movie. I think visually it's fine as far as that's concerned. You know, it's kinetic when it needs to be kinetic, and then it slows down when it has to slow down, and you get more of the character moments in the film or the comedic moments. So overall, you know, for a Netflix film, this one is pretty decent looking on the action side of the film. As far as the performances, there is a major standout in this film, and that's Cameron Diaz. She's been retired for what, 14 years, I think, something like that. It's been a long time since she's been in a movie. Weird that she would pick this movie to come back in, of all things. And I was a little bit worried when I saw the trailer. I was like, oh, Cameron, why are you coming back for this type of movie? But she really does carry the movie, in my opinion. She's very into the role. I don't know how else to say that. You know, she's got that beautiful smile that she's had forever and a day, and that just lights up the screen. But she's having fun. When it comes to the comedic moments, she's really invested and sells the jokes. And she can handle the action. You know, she was in the Charlie's Angels movie, so she knows how to do all the kicks and the flips, and the stunt person does as well. But she sells the action side as well as the comedy side. You believe her as this mom who's willing to fight for her family and keep them together. And as I mentioned, she's got the chops for comedy. And I think really all of her comedic moments, they land the best. There's one part where they have this big fight scene and their daughter's like refusing to get in the car. She's like, did you see what you just did? And her mom's like, get in the car. Did you not see what I just did? And I can't really sell it without spoiling it, but it was pretty funny. I got a good laugh out of that. So there's some good stuff there between her and her daughter, who they're trying to rekindle. You know, when a kid gets to be a teenager, things sort of fade away, and Cameron Diaz's character Emily misses that, and she wants to rekindle that because she didn't have a very good relationship with her mother, so she doesn't want it to go that way. And then when they get to London and they meet Glenn Close, who's really just, she's fun as well. She's hamming it up, you know, she's having a blast playing this. She used to be an MI6 agent, so she's kind of got a tough side to her as well, but she has a nice back and forth with Cameron Diaz, and they have good chemistry together. Andrew Scott as the agent, what was his name, Baron from MI6. I like him as an actor. He does a solid job here, although I will say I don't want to say better than this role, but he's kind of better than this role. I wish they'd given him a little more to do with it instead of just playing this. It's kind of funny. He's got this crush on Emily that he has at the beginning of the movie, and he plays it all the way through to the end. So it's a pretty good running gag that I got a kick out of. And he does a good job selling that. And also, Kyle Chandler's in this, and he's pretty much always solid in everything. And what little bit he's in the movie is very important to the overall outcome of the film, I will say. But he's able to play, how should I say this, multiple layers of a character and sell it. Because, like I said, that guy's good in just about everything you ever see him in. I can't think of anything he's ever done where he's given a bad performance. It might be a bad movie, but he's always pretty solid in everything he's in. And my final positive is that, like I mentioned earlier, this comes in at under 2 hours. And any movie that can do that is always good, especially when it's on a streaming service and all I have to do is hit a button. And Netflix mercifully doesn't put commercials in the middle of their movies, so it doesn't drag out longer. And with that breezy runtime and the fast pacing, it's sort of a fun little ride, to be honest with you. It kind of caught me off guard when I watched the trailer for it. Like I said, when I saw the preview for it and I saw Cameron Diaz, and I was like, oh, it's a Netflix original film. Why is she coming back into this movie? But it surprised me at how much I enjoyed it, and it kind of pulled me into the film. And moving into the bad of the film, and I kind of feel bad about the first negative of this movie, because this is the film that Jamie Foxx had a very serious medical condition. I guess he had a stroke, basically. And you can tell there are parts in the movie where he seems like he's Jamie Foxx. And then there's parts where you're like, okay, this must have been when he came back after the stroke, because he's struggling. And I really hate to critique his performance in it, but it kind of does ruin some of the jokes and some of the chemistry with Cameron Diaz. I would say some of the comedy mostly, because I think they have to ADR in some jokes or some lines, because I don't know if he could have said them right online. I don't know. Like I said, I don't want to get too far into his performance and like ridicule. I mean, the guy had a stroke and then came back and finished the movie, so that's kind of badass in and of itself. But I'm not a huge Jamie Foxx fan to begin with. I think he's been really great in some things, and in other things he's really bad. And with this movie, he's sort of the weak link. Well, I'll get to the other two weak links in a second here. But as far as the main cast, he's sort of the weak link. And again, I hate to put that in a negative because I'm sure what happened played a lot into that, but it does distract you a bit from time to time, or at least make some of the comedy feel a little flat. Also, since we're talking about performances, this is something else I hate to do, but the kid actors in this movie, they're not all that great. The young lady that plays Alice McKenna Roberts, I mean, she's fine. I don't know if it's so much her acting or is just this character is your typical bratty teenage daughter who hates her parents and is embarrassed by everything, and just so many tropes that you've seen 1,000 times. So it's tough to really say, oh, her performance is bad. It's just she's playing that character that's not really that great. And I guess she does a good job because she is really annoying at certain points of the movie. But for the most part, it's kind of just your generic teen daughter. The son, and again, I hate saying this about kid actors, Rylan Jackson. I don't know how many movies he's been in. He could go on and grow up and win 5 Oscars. I hope he does. I hope he has an amazing career in Hollywood and goes down as one of the greatest actors ever. Unfortunately, this movie is not really one that's going to be judged well because he's not very good in it. I think going back to the Jamie Foxx stuff, a lot of his lines sound like they were dubbed over, and it just doesn't land when he tries to make jokes, and there's really no emotion. Both kids really don't react very well to what's going on around them. And it stands out because Cameron Diaz and she's doing such a great job that when the kids start to do stuff, you're like, you do understand what's going on in this scene, right, kids? Somebody please tell these children to act like something is actually happening in front of them instead of just standing there like a plank of wood. So yeah, that's a mixed bag as far as the performances. You've got some really great ones, and then you've got a few that just kind of stick out. My next negative of the movie, I kind of touched on this with the kids, but this is very, very, very generic. You've seen it. If you watch the trailer, you know exactly what's going to happen in this movie. You've seen it 1,000 times. You know how the bad guys are going to do stupid things or convenient things are going to happen so that they can get away from the bad guys when they're getting chased, or the bad guys can never really shoot at them. There's a point with I don't want to give things away, where Matt makes a makeshift flamethrower and this guy's got a gun and he starts walking towards Matt with his gun. I'm like, just shoot him. You don't have to walk to him. You have a gun. It's designed for you to shoot at somebody from long range. But you get a lot of that where the bad guys don't shoot when they should. There's a point in the movie, and again, I don't want to spoil things, where the villains have the upper hand and there's really no reason for them to keep the heroes alive. And I know it's a spy movie and that happens in all of them. Even the great James Bond movies have those moments. Well, it's here as well, where you just sit there and go, why are you not just killing these people? It's sort of the Austin Powers bit where Seth Green is like, just shoot them. I will go to my room and get the gun and I will shoot them. And Dr. Evil's like, no, you just don't get it. So it's kind of falls into those lines, especially when you've seen Austin Power movies. Those things kind of stand out now even more. The same goes with the MacGuffin. It's always this thing that does this horrible thing and no one else can stop it and all this stupid stuff. So, and when it comes to that, it's just very paint by numbers. It's not really breaking the mold of countless movies that have come before it. Let's see. My last real negative of the movie is it is a comedy, an action comedy. It's got sort of mixed results. There's some stuff that I did laugh at. I had a good time with. Even, like I said, with Jamie Foxx's performance, there's times where he has Jamie Foxx moments that were pretty funny. But then there's other points where the comedy doesn't land at all. The grandma has this boyfriend that was just super fucking annoying to me. They could have cut him out of the movie, and that would have made me very happy. And there's other little things here and there that just don't really work. So it's kind of a mixed bag as far as the humor is concerned. And I think maybe that might be my last real big negative for this movie. There's other little things that I could point to throughout the movie, but then we would be here for a very long time. And you don't want that. I don't want that. Nobody really wants that. So I'm not going to go into major details on negative things in this movie, but there's a few things here and there that just don't work. And my first nitpick for the movie, this is actually a true Hollywoodism. In the movie, I can't remember if it's the bad guy or the good guy. One of them has a dart gun. You know, one of those typical Hollywood dart guns where it just instantly makes someone pass out as soon as the dart hits their neck or whatever. And I just always wanted to have one of those dart guns. I just think that would be such a handy thing to have when you're at work and that annoying coworker shows up and you just he's talking to you. You're like, shut the fuck up, but you can't really say anything. You just pull out your dart gun and and they're quiet for the next 8 hours. Can we get those mass produced? I think that would solve a lot of the world's problems right now if we just had dart guns and we could hit idiots in the neck with a dart gun and make them shut up for about 8 hours. I know I have a really long list of people I would use that dart gun on. Let's see. My next nitpick, again, this is a Hollywoodism as well that I still don't understand why this is in movies. But they have to go to London, as I mentioned, and they basically go from home and they get chased by the bad guy and they end up at the airport and they're flying to London. And I'm like, I don't know that you could just go get a plane ticket to London that day. I don't know where you are in the world where you just pull up the airport like, hey, I'd like a ticket to London. And they're like, okay, well, it's going to be another 12 hours for the next flight to get here. I understand they're trying to show that we're in a hurry here. They don't want you having the characters just roaming around the airport, eating greasy fried food for 6 hours and watching the same people wander around and around in the airport or stand in line at TSA or all that. They could have combined Back in Action with Carry On, that other movie on Netflix. And while they're waiting for their flight, the whole movie of Carry On could happen and you could see the terrorists get stopped with their stuff. So at any rate, I just always think it's funny when they pull up the airport, like, okay, we got to go in and get a ticket to the flight. I'm like, yeah, it doesn't work that way anymore. And my final nitpick, and I don't know how I'm going to do this one. There is sort of this catchphrase that Matt and Emily have a couple of times in the movie when they're sort of facing the danger and they're like, okay, we got to do this. Well, the line is, one of them will say, I'm in if you're in. And the other one says, I'm all the way in. And some of you out there are laughing already because your brain works like mine does, or like the typical 15-year-old. I'm all the way in is not quite the line you think it is there, screenwriters. I will say, as a man, that's not something you want to say to your partner during, those romantic moments. I'm all the way in. And if she goes, oh, it's not a good night for you. So they said that line a couple of times in the movie, and every time they did it, I had to laugh, especially when Matt would say, I'm all the way in. I was like, all righty. So as I mentioned, you can see what kind of podcasting host you are working with here. So overall, my final verdict for Back in Action, like I said, as a Netflix film, you're always a little worried about what you're going to get. Most of them are terrible, but every now and then, and I did talk about Carry On earlier, you get something like that where it surprises you. And this one surprised me. At the start of the movie, I was a little concerned. I was like, okay, what are we doing here? This isn't really a good movie for Cameron Diaz to be coming back on. Like, come on, you could do better than. And then once you kind of get to the family dynamic, it starts picking up. And then once the action hits, it moves right along. And Cameron Diaz, God bless her, she puts this movie on her shoulders and she carries it all the way to the end. And she makes it a lot of fun. Fortunately, this isn't in the movie theater, so I don't have to tell you whether you should go to the movie theater or not. But for a streaming service movie, I say go ahead and watch it. Again, it's not breaking any new ground. It's not going to change cinematic history. It's pretty generic. You've seen all of this stuff 1,000 times before. But if you just want to put it on and have a fun either family night, or if you're just kind of finding something to Netflix and chill, you've got something here that you can chill and then come back to the movie and not really miss anything and pick it up pretty quickly and be entertained all the way to the end. So yeah, I'll give this a recommendation, and I think it was good to see Cameron Diaz back. Again, I wish she would have picked something a little different to unretire into, but she does a very good job, and she is really the reason to watch this film. So it's nice to see you back, Cameron, and I always will love that smile. So that wraps up my review for Back in Action. And if you're still listening, then I must have done something right. And if I did, again, please follow the show, rate, review, share it with your friends or on social media. I would appreciate it. So on my next episode, I will have one out Friday. I'll continue my Star Trek series with Star Trek IV, The Voyage Home. And then this weekend, I will have something from the movie theater. I guess I don't really know what's coming out this weekend. So that could be a surprise review on Sunday night for you and me. And those are always exciting. So you definitely want to come back for those kind of episodes. Before I go, I just want to thank you once again for taking the time out of your day to listen to my show. I tell everyone I know I've got the smartest and sexiest audience in all the podcast universe, and you never fail to live up to those high standards. And as you are traveling around on this blue and green ball bouncing through the cosmos, I need you to do one thing for me. Go out there and do that voodoo that you do so well. Punch it.